used to be that we would live and exist in communities where people sort of roughly had the same things that we had, right? The houses were similarly sized, people had the same kind of cars, the same kind of stuff. And so there was this sense that everybody else was doing better than you. And now we're just absolutely throttled all day with images of people who are living a better life and have more stuff. And
they're in Ibiza. Look at that.
Yeah.
Just lounging by a
Look
pool.
at that.
Hello, everyone. It's JVL here with my best friend, Sarah Longwell, publisher of the Bulwark. Sarah, my friend, my real best friend, even though we just had a tiff. Yesterday, Tim had Derek Thompson on his flagship pod to talk about a giant piece that Derek did for The Atlantic about America's loneliness epidemic and the big Derek's thesis is much bigger, but it is sort of extrapolating from Neil Postman and Robert Putnam into where we are today in how we have sort of been in the process of destroying our social capital at a society level. And this is a very difficult topic for me because I agree intellectually with all of it.
But you hate being around people.
Personally, there is nothing I hate more than being around people. And for me, solitude is like a warm blanket. It's a gift. So, so for me, it's like very important not to extrapolate from my own personal experiences in this because I'm not like other people. I'm not even really human. I'm a pod person. And I accept that. But what are your thoughts broadly on all of this?
About you being a pod person? Well, no, I'm just kidding. I will say just for you personally, you are surrounded on a daily basis by more people than most because you have this large family. And so I don't think that when they say lonely, I really do think it has a lot to do with people for whom, and also you have best friends like me.
I do.
That you interact with. And yes, like we are not physically together, but we are emotionally together, engaged in a...
Cosmologically together.
Yeah, but
at all times.
Engaged in a long conversation, years-long conversation, like a chess game that goes on forever. And so... You know, I don't think that you're experiencing the type of loneliness that these guys are articulating. And I think that, you know, one of the things that we struggle with is that you always kind of want a silver bullet for why things are the way they are. And I think loneliness is a big piece of that. But loneliness has tentacles that lead to other things, right? Because it's not just that we no longer have bowling leagues. They still exist, but people don't do them so much. We don't go to church as often. I was reading something recently about, third life. And there's this whole sort of study or conversation around there used to be that you would have sort of work, home, or, home, school, home, work. And then you'd have this third space. And it could be church or it could be the Lions Club but places where you got together with people, and that was deeply satisfying. Even you go back and read Tocqueville on Democracy in America, and one of the things he'll credit us with is they call them little pontoons, but the extent to which we self-organize in ways that are emotionally and civically gratifying for us. And those connections that we have lead us to taking care of the country, to feeling connected to it in ways that we wouldn't want to burn things down because, no, we want to protect these civic spaces and we like them. And, when I say the tentacles, I mean things like, okay, so now we're lonely. And so you seek out this, we've given ourselves this new opportunity, right? Without if you're somebody who doesn't, love always, or even it's just an inconvenience to get up and go do the thing, you can do so much of it virtually. You can sit and engage with your fellow humans in this simulacrum of life called social media, which then can lead to the sense that, and this, I was trying to explain this to somebody recently where they were like, well, what do Americans want? Like, why? And I was saying, well, and this is where someone like you might be like, but the economy was good. Why does everybody think it's bad? And I'm like, what if people don't exactly think that it's bad? It's that they think other people have it better. And that it used to be that we would live and exist in communities where people sort of roughly had the same things that we had, right? The houses were similarly sized. People had the same kind of cars, the same kind of stuff. And so there was this sense that everybody else was doing better than you. And now we're just absolutely throttled all day with images of people who are living a better life and have more stuff. And
they're in Ibiza. Look at that.
Yeah.
Just lounging by a
Look
pool.
At that. Why can't I do that? And so maybe it's not so much that you can say like, well, GDP and job, this, and you're like, okay, but I'm driving an Uber, and maybe you can feed your family or you can take care of yourself, but you can't take a vacation, and you see it everywhere else. And I think it's leading to a chronic dissatisfaction that is then coupled with our increased loneliness. And our increased loneliness can also come from like seeing other people and feeling like we're not a part of that, right? Like this is what's killing kids in school. Like it's not just that bullying. It's like, oh, I'm not part of this other thing and I can see it. I didn't used to be able to see pictures all over the place of the cool kids having the party, but now I can, and I know I'm excluded. And so I think there's like a lot going on here, but I do think it is at the center of our cultural malaise.
So I view this like it's Murder on the Orient Express. Like, what's the cause of it? All of it. All of the things are the cause of it. And, dating back to widespread adoption of the television and declining population density as people move to the suburbs, to declining church attendance, to declining fertility rate, to social media. I mean, just all of the things. And the thing that I look at it and I think, okay, so where are the places that society could right itself then? Right? Because you can't put the TV back in the box. Like the TV's just there.
Sure.
I wonder if phones are like are we going to look back on phones the way we now look back in 40 years from now? Will we look back on phone use the way we now look back at people smoking in the movies? Mm-hmm. Right. You put on a movie from 1950 and every single person is smoking. And we look at that and we're like, yeah, can you believe that was people like that? They would. Will we 40 years from now look back on the amount of time given to phones and social media and screens, and will we view it like smoking, or will it be totally normal to us? And will we not? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, do we think we're going to learn something and revamp how we use those and integrate those things to our lives? This is just we're in this first blush of the new technology still. We're only like 15, 20 years into it. And so everybody's just doing it in every way possible, and nobody's really figured out which ways are self-destructive yet.
I do think there's some of that. I mean, I think I think about this a lot with my kids, where I'm like, guys, go outside. Go outside. What are you doing? When I was a kid, and I'm like, I'm at that age where I spent a lot of time being like, when I was a kid, we just like went outside and we didn't come home until, dinner time. And like our parents didn't even know where we were. And we just were out riding our bikes and running through the woods. And you're not going to sit here and play Minecraft or whatever. Get out there. And I'm like, you know what I didn't have? Parents who were on their phones, right? Like, I mean, I also, like, I am like aware, our phones came around for us, and like, we're trying to figure out how to manage it for our kids when we like, nobody managed it for us. And we just were like, oh, do you have crack? Do you have the screen crack that I can be engaged in? Thank you. Like, and like people use it for the thing about the phones is like, there's a phone, but inside the phone, there are different worlds. And so like, while somebody else might play Candy Crush, right? I'm addicted to Twitter / political social media, right? Where people are having political conversations because I love that. But also, have I lost it is hijacking our brains in all kinds of ways. And I know it, like I can see it happening. I mean, I like keep saying, I'm going to read more fiction. I'm going to read more fiction. I used to just read book after book after book. That was just what I did. My attention span for a book now, like, you got to give me a day. I need to like know I can sit down. And even then it's like, I don't know, man. Anyway, but I do think it's like, I think one of the things that's going to happen as we start to get a grip and we realize how much damage it's doing, we will probably do as we did with smoking. We'll try to protect the kids first, right? The first thing we did was put an age limit on who could access it. And I think that's probably what's coming for us first is no phones, and they're already starting to do, like, I just saw Instagram is unrolling, and I'm not on Instagram, or if I'm on it, I don't use it, a like teen version that is specifically, I think, probably made for teenagers to keep them out of kind of adult world. And that's good. I think schools saying, no, your phone, I see a phone in the classroom, it's confiscated. Like, you don't use the phone during the day.
So the school thing is a real mixed bag, because what you have places where school systems are adopting that as a policy, but then not doing anything about the enforcement about it and leaving the teachers to fend for themselves. Yeah. And so this is like, I don't know, like, I send my kids to this crazy Catholic school, and like they are serious about no phones. And, it just strikes me as obvious that that's how it should be everywhere. And I don't understand why it's not. And I wish that the school systems, which have done, because I have friends who are teachers who or their school system has done this. And the idea is they're like, yeah, we have a very strict no phone policy. But the deal is then like all the teachers are left to enforce it or not enforce it as they want. And so, you're the one mean teacher who is doing it all the time. The kids hate you and they think, and so a bunch of the other teachers don't enforce it. And so it winds up in this weird Wild West kind of thing. I don't know. Like, I just think the phones are bad and we haven't let our kids have them. And Flash is going to get an iPhone when he gets his license, because that's the level at which I'm like, I don't know, like I want him to have access to Google Maps and and all the safety stuff, because I'm a crazy helicopter parent. I'm terrified of him driving. Like utterly terrified of him driving in ways which don't make any rational sense, but they just are there. But I don't know, like he's the last kid without a phone in his peer group,
Good for you.
I guess.
Because I think 16 is a good age. I actually think 16 is a good...
Jersey. 17.
Don't worry, he won't have to pump his own gas.
Yeah, that's right. He'll be able to sit in the car on his phone.
Yeah. Do you know why, though, when you say, like, I don't understand why everybody's not everybody's doing this? It's the parents. Like, you don't have buy-in from the parents. Parents want their kids to have a phone. And it's a lot of it. So I think, there's Jonathan Haidt has this book called The Anxious Generation. Super, super worth a read. I say that like I read it, but I actually just, skipped around and stuff.
You read in it.
I've heard him. I read in it. But, anxious kids, they have anxious parents. We're anxious. Our phones are making us
100%.
more anxious. All we see, right? But I think it's funny. I was talking to somebody much older the other day who said, like, they were talking about somebody's husband who had killed his wife. And the person was like, this was back when that was very uncommon. And I was like, is it more common today than it was back in 1950?
Still seems pretty uncommon. Knock wood.
Yeah, but I was like, or are you getting served things that terrify you constantly, right? Are you seeing every bad news story and it creates a sense in us that the world is an unsafe place filled with people who are going to kill you at any point? I mean, I am committed to my kids being out in the world on their own. And I'm also very scared. I mean, the feeling in my stomach of not knowing where they are and not having eyes on them. And that is not how our parents felt.
I mean, I
But now we see every story about a pedophile, every story about a murderer. We're drowning in this stuff.
Again, I don't want to generalize from personal experience, but I feel like we're caught maybe in this ping pong because those of us raised in the 70s and 80s, I think that parenting was too hands off. Like I look back on it and I'm amazed that my friends and I didn't die. You know, like I just, the things that like we just did and the number of people who were doing drugs and drinking underage and, you know, like driving drunk sometimes, not me, obviously, because I was such a rule follower. But, I mean, I look back on that and I don't look at it as like, oh, it was all such good fun. I look on it as, it is only by luck and privilege that peers were able to escape this time without, you know, really bad consequences. And had I been part of a lower socioeconomic stratum, I'm sure there would have been lots of real consequences. Hey, Sarah, there's more show.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Are we still talking? We have more talking?
We're still talking. The talking goes on. But that's only for the, you know, the people who are inside the Velvet Rope, the Bulwark Plus members.
Oh, they got to subscribe.
Yeah. Tell them to subscribe. Tell the people,
You should subscribe,
Sarah.
Guys. Why wouldn't you subscribe? You get all kinds of things. You get some extra me and JVL. You get some extra me and George Conway. You get JVL's Triad. This is one of the best things the Bulwark offers. I read it at least once or twice a week.
Yes. Go and subscribe. We'd love to have you.